He's not in this game, so let's look at this game as we close things out. So we talked about the new additions. We've got Ku, formerly on Giants. It was his most recent. Was dropped from the team in the team's words from differences inside and outside of the game. That was Giants' words in their statement they released. On the side of Mouse, Zaitan in the support role. Last time we saw him, I think, was on SK Prime. I know he used to play with like the likes of Haydal and that on that lineup, so it's been a while since we've seen Zaitan.
But we did see him in challenges.
Oh, we just saw him with Crazy Caps. That may have been on
we did, yes.
Yeah. So is a seasoned player.
Season player, so we see him coming back with Nardius as well, and that's also interesting because he also was a replacement for the other AD carry. So
I'm going to go very quickly into the picks and bans because this is very weird. Ahri, LeBlanc, so many mid lane focused bans here. Syndra, this is a non-standard picks and bans phase, and we're only four bans in. Everything is going to be available here. Cog's going to be up. Lulu is banned. Gangplank, Fiora, Poppy, Kalista.
Name them all,
I'm trying to think of anybody else. Yeah, Kalista we've seen banned out a couple of times today already. Alistair. All going to be available until these last two bans. So GP off.
Okay, that's one out of the like 20 you listed. So.
Probably Cog more now is the next one, I would assume.
Yeah, maybe.
Generally the meta pick.
Why Ahri?
So Soren, when you look at his stats, I'm going to take a look back exactly. He has played a game of Ahri. Is yet to play LeBlanc.
Yeah.
And honestly, Soren was known a little bit more for control mages in the LCS. We saw a lot of Victor games. We saw him playing Cassiopeia as well, was one of his big picks. So interesting that like the LeBlanc would be banned out as well. I don't feel like these are particularly strong bans in general. I don't think Soren is strong enough as a player to just carry that.
Yeah. I mean, they're technically 6 mid lane bans. Like, they can all go into the mid lane. We did see a Sebex Syndra game, and he did okay, but that was already like a lost game anyway. So just taking that off the board, I just need to see the picks to make the bans make sense within the context, but I don't know what they could pick and do now that would make it make sense. We do have a first pick Kalista though, so priority on Nardius for the bottom lane, so we'll see how that goes. We've generally seen a lot of priority on like really big carry AD carries, right? Like a Holy Phoenix or even a Panoy on the other team, we see priorities for like a Kalista, and their response is the Alistair and Gragas.
Alistair, Gragas, and with this many early game mid laners off the board, now do you go late game from the mid lane? Maybe. Rely on your Kalista for the early game? Do you go for something like an Azir? We saw Ica playing the Azir when he needed the damage against tanks.
He also died
he did. I don't think Azir is a great pick. What I'm saying is with these number of mid lane bans, to get through tanks is fairly difficult. You have to get a mid laner that will hold you in the early game very effectively. The likes of like Lux is available. That wouldn't provide anti-tank damage as you go throughout the game, but still is an option for mid lane right now.
So we're waiting on those next two pickups coming in for Mouse. They are currently hovering the graves, but I hope he locks that in, because that would be incredibly exciting to see. We're seeing so many new things come into the jungle and the top lane for other regions, and now coming into the western scene. But Dan's going to be boring and go on his main jungler, which is Rek'Sai, and also with the Braum as well going on to Zaitan. We had an instant lock-in as well from Copenhagen Wolves. There's the Victor you were talking about late game right over there, and then the Poppy as well, who also made it through picks and bans. Yeah,
I mean, I actually had kind of omitted Victor in my mind when looking at Mao's jungle mid lane picks. There were a lot of options that Victor can deal with. So that now is going to give them good scaling. They've also got a very heavy front line here with the Poppy going alongside the Alistair and the Gragas. That's kind of like, well, try and get through this, and we'll see how you can deal. They haven't got an AD carry yet, so that's going to be the last pick for Wolves. I wonder whether they want to go for something that has scaling potential. For Panoy, just taking a look at what he has played. Caitlyn was the carry that he played, if you remember, back in week 3. With scaling potential, but they kept trading kills 1 for 1. He went 5 and 5 in that game. Wasn't the greatest of performances.
Lock it.
That is a locked-in Ziggs. Whoa.
Okay. Well, Ziggs does have some changes on 6-3.
He did have changes on 6-3. The extra damage zone on his ultimate now is slightly more powerful as well. I think he even has an indicator now, if I remember rightly. Problem with Ziggs is he got nerfed a long time ago on something that changed his playstyle completely, and that was the radius of his Q. So it became so much more difficult to hit things with the bouncing bomb, and you just kind of end up missing them when they look like they should hit. Old Ziggs used to be able to just throw the Q and it hit. Takes a lot more skill now. Wave clear potential out of the wazoo. You can just ult another wave, minefield one wave, bomb the wave as well. Like, whoa. So much wave clear.
Yeah, you know a game is going to go long regardless when a Zig is in the game. And it's funny because we went through like a phase in 5.24 when we had wave clear mid laners like a Nivea, and Ziggs never even came back. Now he's coming back, so we'll see how he fits into the current meta. Malphite also came alongside that. We had a Tristana lock-in. I mean, we have a big, beefy front line for Pinoy to like not die in this one, so we'll see how it goes. But I feel like we might be seeing like a longer, prolonged mid-game into late game in this one because Ziggs exists in this game.
This is a very tank-heavy game as well, though. I'm somewhat worried for Mouse. If this goes late, that they actually have the damage to output here. Kalista will start to fall off when it comes to her damage. In general, like armor-piercing items, not particularly great right now. So the fact they're against like a Gragas, an Alistar, or a Poppy, and on the enemy team is a Tristana and a Victor, who if they get to the late game will melt the tanks just from the way they scale. Tough game for Mouse. If they don't get ahead, it's going to be a very difficult setup.
I mean, the mid game can still be good because you go like Blade of the Ruin King, and like because she's not a crit AD carry, you're looking at mid game for Kalista, and that's where they'll snowball. But you're totally right. If they fall behind in the mid game, I mean, it might just be curtains for them as soon as you hit the 40-minute mark, because Ziggs is not going to chunk through a tank who has, like, even Spirit Visage. It's just like, well, I guess I don't do any damage anymore, but I can clear minions. But jump on Twitter, join the discussion. Tell us what you think about the Ziggs pick coming out. Hashtag MOU win and hashtag CW win as we get into this game. Both teams also fielding new players as well, and bot lane Zaitan and also jungler Ku. So we'll see how all of those factors play into this game as we get onto the Rift for this second series of the day. This is our final week here in Challenger for the regular season ahead of playoffs. Reminder, we will be going to, we'll have Katowice next week, so we will be taking a small break, and then we will be back after for the playoffs and seeing who will be going into the promotion tournament, which should be very exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, Challenger has been really good this split. Like, compared to the other ones that we've had, the top 4 is, like, really competitive when you look at the teams.
Yeah, for sure. The top 4 has been far and away better than we've had in previous splits. I still think there's a disparity between Copenhagen Wolves and the other 3, just from what we saw last week and the last couple of weeks in general.
That's a good point.
I do, to go away from this game ever so slightly, just to talk about Katowice, I actually am really looking forward to seeing the teams and what they play. Because last year we saw a big kind of a shift on teams understanding each other. With how SK kind of got shut down at Katowice, so I'll be at home watching, notepad in hand, looking at different metas clashing, so should be very interesting to see where they're at. But for this game, Mouse against Copenhagen Wolves, this is completely different meta than we've really seen in a lot of other games. 6 mid lane bans. Leaves us with a Ziggs, there's a Tristana in this game, there's no Kog'Maw, there's no Lucian.
No, Lucian made it all the way through. I didn't even think about it. Yeah. Wow.
There's no Janna. Whew, this is crazy land. This game.
You have Alistar, though.
We do. I mean, if that hadn't got picked, I would have been incredibly surprised.
I would have blown my mind. And also Kalista. So the bot lane, for the most part, makes sense. Top lane, Malphite versus Wicked Poppy. Just seeing these two bot lanes go toe-to-toe. They both picked up those camps, and level 2 punish coming in onto Nukesalot. Look at all those spears, looking for a Ren to come out perhaps. Pinoy with the explosive charge, returning some damage onto Nardius. And that was a good level 2 punish coming in from Mouse. They managed to hit that last minion just before Copenhagen Wolves did. And their level 2 is also a lot better. Top lane punish from Wicked. There's the level 2 onto Binzu. He now levels up as well. It's actually so rare you see big level 2 punishes in competitive, because if you know your opponent is going to get that minion for the level 2, you back away and you don't punish. Or it's so close you both level at the same time and you're both level 2 and there's no punish. Well, so it's cool in this game.
We actually have seen quite a few in Challenger today already. The one in the last game, the Alistar flash engage in game 1, it's so difficult to play disrespectful at the beginning of the game, pushing up, and not get punished for it. Copenhagen Wolves lose 2 summoners for it, and actually SirNukeSalot was forced to take his E, so it means there's going to be no aggressive play coming from Pinoy and SirNukeSalot at level 2 themselves. So it's a bit tough for them to actually even that out. Dan going to try and protect his ward. Ku says, you're not going on me. Even though I'm low health, you're not coming into my jungle.
Yep. He's still Gragas. He still packs a punch. He did also have changes in 6-3. We've seen that a bunch now with the crazy jungle clear.
I'm actually a little bit surprised that Dan is playing this playstyle on the Rek'Sai when, you know, typically we've seen a lot of Elise available, a lot of Nidalee available. Dan opted for neither of them and is then trying to go aggressive on the Gragas. While Rek'Sai still is strong in the early game, I feel like her 1v1 in the jungle with the skirmish against Gragas is the weakest of the 3 that I've mentioned. Just from the way that Gragas can kind of just body slam away from everything. Rek'Sai has no real lockdown or burst damage like Elise and Nidalee has, especially the burst coming from Nidalee. So just a weird one that Dan's then trying to go aggressive. But nevertheless, it's not a bad matchup, to say the least.
Sure. Very true. Top lane, though, it's Poppy versus Malphite, so not a whole lot happens unless the Malphite really screws up pre-6 and then gets hit against the wall. And then when you hit level 6, he has ult anyway, so nothing really happens. I do want to see what Wicked does in terms of item build, because he might be greedy and go for like an early Iceborne versus like a Sunfire Cape, for example, because he's not really being pressured in that lane. So maybe something interesting will happen in terms of item builds, but that's as interesting as that 1v1 really gets. And then in the jungle, Ku will just be farming up his jungle. Bot lane still trading away. To touch on that level 2 a little bit more, just in solo queue, if you're just laning against someone, it's really important to get that level 2 before your opponent, just as Ku finds them in the jungle. Bot lane trade comes out. I think they're good to go. Zaitan just wants to shut me up. And so does Dan and Ku. I mean, ultimately, I don't feel like much is going to happen, but Soren is here, hits him with the Death Laser. And Sebex is here, cuts him off the minefield. Ku will have to take the scenic route back to the safe side of the jungle. He may clear out a couple tunnels on his way back. Wicked just casually farming behind the turret because he's Poppy versus Malphite.
Sebex just had to use his heal, though.
He did, yeah.
To get Dan out. Not only for the heal, but the movement speed, just to get him away. Ku has this razor sharp pop. Binsu low on mana, low on health.
Dive. They're going to flash away. Both top lanes flash. Ku is under the tower. The Q is popped, and the first blood goes down. He'll take one last tower shot, but it's taken down from the minions. The mid lane gank is going on to Soren. He's already used both of his summoners. As Dan takes one tower shot, Sebex simply does not have the mana and the cooldowns to follow up. So after all of that, just one kill in the top lane.
Much cleaner from the Wolves on their side from the jungle pathing there. Binsu tried to draw Ku back up under the turret so that you could hold him there and hopefully survive long enough to get the kill from the tower damage. Problem is, Ku was able to get him before it was too late and then get the happy hour passive as well to keep himself alive. But Wolves are trying to close on Dan here. They know he's somewhere in the jungle but can't quite find him.
He is Rek'Sai, so he's fairly
thinking
slippery.
About it. Like, that's the Wolves bot lane wasting a bit of time there, and they actually double warded that bush.
Double ward, what does it mean? It means they screwed up.
Generally, yes. Unless you're like, man, if there's one person with a sweeper with a low attack speed, they can only get 5 attacks out with the basic sweeper.
I mean, Jin would be screwed in that situation.
Oh, that would be a nightmare.
It's like, I got one, but now my sweeper's run out.
I always hate that when you're using the bog standard sweeper on somebody that's just got a standard attack speed, so you can only get 5 attacks. You're like, guys, somebody help me. One attack.
Anyone at all?
Just one.
Yeah. Ilawi's pretty bad as well. She has like a really low attack speed. Yeah, Graves is bad. Jin's really, really bad.
It sounds like you're just talking about the champions in general.
Yeah. Terrible champions. Only really saw Jin go huge on Sneaky when he picked it up in North America. Still haven't seen one in Europe. Just want to say the skill names. That's all I want. That's all I want in life. Nardius chasing after NukeSalot. He's level 5, so he doesn't have the ultimate. There comes the exhaust, actually fearing the Ren damage a lot. And I think Ren, while he was still in the exhaust, but now Dan comes in for the knockup, lands onto NukeSalot. He'll force out the flash. Pinoy also pops the heal for the movement speed, and they'll back off to that tower.
I'm going to be honest. I had a lot of high hopes for SirNukeSalot in the beginning weeks. His Trundle was pretty good.
4 games in a row.
4 games in a row. Looked very strong. He's not doing anything inherently wrong, but when you look at the likes of Masterwork as a standout player, Je suis Cass has been doing pretty well as well. He's just not standing out to me yet. I think he's fairly overshadowed. Yeah. I just want to see more. Ku's going for another gank top side. No ult for Binsu.
Oh no, knocked against the wall. Level 7 Wicked. He doesn't even need to use the Keeper's Verdict, and he's just going to punch him to death. Actually just pops the ultimate there for the swag points.
And this is way better from this game than we saw from Wicked last week. So Poppy's kind of that bruiser, which is a little more tanky and just in general. Well, the assist goes over to Mouse on that one. That was blind by Soren, actually.
Yeah, I believe it was.
Unless there was a Rift Spirit.
I think they walked past a ward, so he had the rough timer.
He had the timing of it.
Yeah, but it was blind.
So to finish off my Wicked point, I feel like Poppy into Malphite is a much easier situation to play than Fiora into last week's matchup, where he was in lane swap. This is standard lanes, now he's been able to zone the Malphite away from a lot of experience, and he's had the help from Ku alongside that. So the mix between jungler coming in and playing a slightly more comfortable champion for Wicked seems to be doing well for the Wolves.
It's absolutely more forgiving as well.
Yes.
Versus a Fiora. Like, if you mistime that riposte, you are probably dead. Versus Poppy, who is just like, well, you can miss the W, but she's still really tanky. And if she drops below 40%, gets more tanky. So, actually a little bit easier. Once again, Dan's closing in from behind. The ultimate is available from Nukesalot, and he now pops the Unbreakable Will. Here comes Dan. Again, the knock-up onto Nukesalot, but he's already got the ultimate on, and it's only now going to wear off. There's the Ren, the Flash, the auto-attack, and the kill onto the Alistar. Nice setup in the bot lane for Mouse.
Both junglers making repeat plays a couple of minutes apart. We saw it top lane, bottom lane's not done yet.
Pinoy jumps in aggressively. Does he have his ultimate though? He's already used it. Ku comes in with the body slam flash. Zaitan now backs off to the tower. Nice double knockup from Dan. Trying to get in range of Zaitan for the last auto attack. The body slam will do it, but that puts Ku in tower range, and Dan will happily pick up that kill. Shutdown going over to Rek'Sai. 3-4 in total in this game. This has been a very bloody early game.
It's been a very weird early game, not really caring, no disregard for anybody's safety. You can see Mouse, I think, end up coming ahead from that. I'm pretty sure they got the 3 kills there onto Nukesalot. We're going to take another look because my short-term memory has gotten a little bit from that game. I trying to hold on to what I've got left of it here as we go aggressive onto Nukesalot. So this was a repeat play once again from Dan. They managed to get Nukesalot under the turret because Nardius and Dan just finished that one off. Here's the re-engage though. You can see on your minimap Ku coming down through the river with Soren alongside. So Pinoy here desperately is trying to get the kill. I believe it's onto Nardius here just to get, sorry, onto Zaitan as he comes across just to get the reset on the jump and get away from Dan. Couldn't quite break through the Unbreakable, and Ku manages to pick up the kill before dying.
Yeah, at that point, Ku kind of had to commit. Like, it was like either he backs away and probably dies, or jumps in, gets a kill, and probably dies anyway. So yeah, kind of a difficult situation. Bot lane, Ku is there once again. Doesn't have his ultimate just yet. Nardius has taken some damage from the E coming in from Pinoy. Nukesalot only now roams into the bottom lane, but that is also followed by Dan, who also arrives at the same time. So we're not going to see a dive coming out right now. As the 3v3 tri-lane in the bot lane.
Don't know what's going on, so there's a funny couple of minutes here in the studio.
Yep, gotta agree with that one, Stress. Sebex is gonna spot out someone in the jungle perhaps. Well, he knows the tunnel is dead, so he knows there's someone there. And he's gonna see Nukesalot as he walks in and walks out. This is a lot of control from Copenhagen Wolves. In the opposing jungle. Like, it's kind of, yeah, it's definitely been a weird early game in terms of like who's had the presence in this game. Wicked's gonna take the ultimate from Binsu, but he doesn't have any more mana, so.
But Wicked's gonna be fine with that. Like, he knows now there's no teleport play that can come from Mouse. They've got no TP, means Binsu can't roam down and utilize the ult. Wolves are trying to play hide and seek. They weren't spotted at first by Dan's reduced vision, but they started to move. So, bailed themselves out of that situation. So Wolves, they've slowed down a bit, just off this last minute or so, but Pinoy has been comfortably farming bottom lane at the same time. This Tristana's in an okay spot, even on CS. We know Tristana's going to want to scale in this game, but no towers yet, only the one dragon, but top lane, Wicked could be in trouble.
Lands the cheese with a flash, the knockup from Dan, and the auto attack should come in here for the kill. Very nice onto Wicked. It was pretty clean and simple.
Oh,
Ku into the top lane. He has his ultimate, takes a drink, and he will be following on to Dan. He doesn't have his flashes, he just used it, and Soren should be an easy kill for him with the laser coming out there. Sebex comes in from the side, but simply does not have the cooldowns or the artillery to bring down Ku and Soren. Now seeding the top turret, a minion wave is coming in, so Sebex, this is what he does best. In this game, it's wave clear.
It is. Goodbye, minions.
Oh, Binsu.
Careful.
You want Malphite. You don't really have magic
Ku
resist at
could
this
look
stage.
to go aggressive here. If he goes over the wall, could be looking... I think he's actually digging. He's trying to find a good ultimate here. Goes on to the blue buff because he realizes Binsu is out of there. This is over-aggressive from the Wolves here. Here comes the teleport from Binsu. Ult not available.
Whoa, he actually knocked him out of the tunnel, so he doesn't get the knocker from Dan. The ultimate onto Binsu knocks him away for the disengage. Now Ku... Well, actually, probably take away this tunnel or just carry on into the jungle because Wicked is coming in from the mid lane as he just respawned. Barrel comes out from Ku.
Who got it? Ku got it.
All right, successful invade.
I'm going to be honest. This game right now does not feel controlled from either team.
No.
There seems to be almost no medium-term plan here. It seems to be for the Wolves, okay, well, we need to make sure Pinoy doesn't fall too far behind, and it'd be good if we can get Wicked ahead. So let's just go top for a lot in the early game. And then there doesn't seem to be that next step of, you know, vision control and vision denial and playing around, moving Pinoy around the map once he's got his items. We are in a laning phase, so it is a bit different from games we've seen recently in the meta, which is why it maybe feels a little bit more loose, but typically you'd expect that to result in less kills.
I mean, that's something to revisit in the mid game, right?
Yeah.
Because right now it's really messy because all the lanes are interacting, but yeah, I feel like this is almost a very solo queue-esque game where you know, everyone is just like going at it constantly in these lanes. Just like in the bot lane, because Ku is looking for another engage here. He's now onto the tower. This should be going down to explosive shot. Not already used Fate's Call, so he'll be throwing Zaitan back to his tower. So they pick up that one tower. The first one of the game. Mouse don't get one in response.
Okay, so the difference here is now Wolves should look to either group on mid or top. Because we're not so much in a lane swap where you're now trying to deny the enemy AD carry any kind of farm or their push. At this point, if you're faster on the push here, it's not too much of a problem. You can afford to trade bot outer for the likes of Dragon and their mid outer. Like, that's a fine trade in standard lane setups. Because if you can get the mid outer, that's not a problem. Problem is, they are against the Ziggs. We've talked about wave clear, super strong, Wicked top lane.
What's the verdict? Dan's going out of there. Binsu gonna give Wicked a good old punch. He's gonna back off the tower. Dan, he's out of there. Onto the Rift Herald.
So they've pinged bot lane for the Wolves. Ziggs ult is up, which means this isn't gonna happen. Because Ziggs will move down and clear it out. Wolves know that. They've realized it. Look at their positioning on the map. They're hovering between, and they're not actually doing anything. Realistically, the way that they've got to do this, and it's tough because it's a Ziggs, you don't have minions when you dive, is Alistar dives. Ziggs ult should come with the next red side minion wave pushing in, but there is Nadius there anyway, so I don't actually think they need it here. Mouse should be fine.
Yeah, alternatively, there is a small window in which you can catch Ziggs as he walks down to a lane to ult it, because it's not a global ultimate, it's like semi-global, it just has a really big range. So if you have an Alistar, if you have a Gragas in the right place to catch him, and you have the vision control, which Copenhagen Wolves have been trying to establish over this first 60 minutes of the game, you can maybe pick up the Ziggs and then you go for a play. But Ziggs is really the linchpin of this game when it comes to Copenhagen Wolves being able to take objectives, because if Ziggs is alive, he's going to poke you, he's going to clear waves, and you probably won't be able to siege.
I wonder... So, I think at this point, the name of the game for Wolves is close vision control over mid lane. Take away any Mouse wards that are in the side bushes, take away the likes of wards around the Raptor camp, and the kind of walkway to mid on the blue top side jungle, and then dive with Alistar ult. I don't know how successful that is, but it's probably the best option they've got right now without slowing the game down so much. It's also not a play that the Wolves have to make right now. They are ahead, and they have a Tristana who's scaling, so they can just default back to farming. But now it's like, do you want to play reactive versus proactive? And problem is, Ziggs is not going to go proactive, so he's not going to make too many mistakes. And neither are the rest of Mouse, really. Like, unless this game plays out like 25 more minutes, then Mouse probably have to make a decision and try and fight.
Wicked could be under attack here. Dan is coming in from behind. Doesn't land a Prey Seeker. Keeper's Verdict will knock him up in place. Zaitan's there with the chair. Looking for a couple more auto attacks to stun him down. There it is, supplied by Nardius. Now under this tower. The counter gang from Ku could be massive. The ultimate knocks Nardius into tower, and he also takes the aggro. There's a Ziggs ultimate as well for good measure. Binsu is going to be zoning Ku away as the rest of his team is lagging behind. They're a good 2-3 seconds behind Ku before they can get involved in the action. That's ultimately a 1-for-1. That was a good read from Ku.
Ziggs ult was used though. How is that going to affect the next minute or so of the game? It's not the longest cooldown actually. Look at how fast that's ticking down. He's got Lucidity Boots plus the Athene's Unholy Grail. So that is enough cooldown reduction to be like, okay, well, there's going to be like one wave that I can't catch and take out, but 72-second cooldown currently on that ultimate. So keep that in mind.
I will keep it in mind, Stress. Yeah, actually, I'd be really addicted to Lucidity Boots with Distortion and then Insight as well from Masteries. Yeah, wow. Yeah, because it actually drops. Ku's caught out here in the jungle. One more auto attack will lock him down with the concussive blows, and Soren is just behind them. We're going to have another blue contest, ladies and gentlemen. Sebek's in from the side. He doesn't have his ultimate just yet, but does really want this blue because he is Ziggs.
Sebek's got it, yep.
All right, mission success.
Addicted, so
yeah,
continue.
Because it drops it from 5 minutes on Flash and Teleport to 3 minutes, which is huge, especially if you're a champion who likes to make Flash plays. It's just really good, and specifically Ziggs as well in the mid lane. Like, it makes him more defensive. You have, like, your summoner spells up all the time, and because you want the normal cooldown reduction, not just on summoner spells, for your ultimate so you can constantly clear waves. And it allows you to put more bouncing bombs out, more poke, and just emphasizes all the strengths of Ziggs.
That is very true. I'm completely with you. I played a lot of Ziggs recently and then got bored of playing Ziggs because of how... I'm just going to say the word, how brainless Ziggs is at clearing waves. Top lane, though, Nardius and Zaitan, they are in trouble a bit, but Teleport coming through.
There's a lot of Ren stacks already. Unstoppable Force, and Nardius will jump back into the battle. Wicked is coming in with his own teleport. This is a 4 versus 3. Now that Panoy has gone down, but that's both AD carries traded. Ziggs ultimate comes in. That was actually very unimpressive. Now Soren is popping his own ultimate onto Beans, who doesn't have all that magic resist, and Copenhagen Wolves are running over Mousesports right now. A good disengage from the bomb, but Soren will jump back in. The power transfer is complete as he picks the kill onto Beansu. Dan Sebek's running back to the mid lane. They should be able to get out of here. It's very difficult to kill a Rek'Sai and a Ziggs in full retreat. Yeah,
well, the Ziggs ultimate did so little because Sebek's is built for wave clear right now as a priority over everything. He's gone all in on cooldown and nothing really in the way of damage when you look at it. No needlessly large rod items yet, as you would expect. But what that has the influence on is the fact that Maus don't have that big AoE damage in these early fights. And they're against a very tanky frontline. We talked about it in Champion Select. Alistair, Gragas, Poppy, all champions that are going to be able to soak up a lot of damage in these fights. And you can see it's already there. They haven't even had to prioritize a whole lot of magic resist yet. Only a couple of items spattered throughout the inventory of Copenhagen Wolves. So for the Wolves, they're in a decent spot here. They are about 4,000 gold up. And honestly, they are ahead. We talked about it. If they manage to get ahead, it's tough for Maus to come back in this through the tank line.
Just to revisit as well, as we just touched on items, we said at the start maybe Wicked will go for the greedy first item, Iceborne Gauntlet, versus just other tank items, which he did. He didn't get punished for it because it's Malphite, but there was a lot of fighting happening in the top lane. It just made him better in skirmishes versus team fights. Because we haven't really been seeing big 5v5s until maybe that last one in top lane for a good 20 minutes, Iceborne is actually fine because you don't really get bursted. Because the problem with Iceborne first item is you don't get any health, so in terms of effective health, it's not that great. But in terms of what it does for Poppy, it's fantastic because you just get it on the buckler, you hammer shock, and you just throw your buckler at someone, it slows them down, you chase after them. Such a good item.
I also love that the scaling with armor radius of the Iceborne Gauntlet. When you get a whole lot of armor, you can just like hit somebody.
Yep. I want to see Beansu pick it up this game because because his passive as well increases armor, so it just makes it even bigger. Yeah.
One last stop on the itemization discussion is last year.
Yep.
Because we've got Infinity Edge Static Shiv. I say last year, it was to set myself up to then say, but Static Shiv got buffed.
It did.
It did get extra buffs, so we're expecting to see it a little bit more now. Rapid Fire did get a bit of a nerf. So Static Shiv is a viable option if you want extra wave clear as well. So with wave clear comes pushing potential. You will obviously be able to clear the minions out fast enough. Tristana doesn't normally have too much of an issue with that, the way that her passive on her E works and the way you can, you know, farm through with the explosives on the tower tends to get a bit of collateral damage around it. So
surprisingly good for sieges as well, because the AoE is quite big. Ku does have his own ultimate though, as the Fate's Call will knock Zaitan and his AD carry into the team, and Zaitan will be biting the bullet as he goes down. Wicked coming in from the top side, maybe looking for this tower dive onto this mid, inner, outer turret. Now, Wicked has found Dan, but they're both tanks, so not too much is going to happen. Beansu does have unstoppable force. They're going to make sure this outer turret goes down. Copenhagen Wolves taking down the bottom lane means they should be able to take this one uncontested. And that was ultimately a 2-for-0 and a tower to the Wolves.
Well, Wolves are continuing to increase their lead slowly throughout this game. More wave clear priority on Ziggs. Luden's Echo. So if ever you weren't dealing with minions fast enough, let's deal with them even faster. So this was the beginning of the fight once again. Ku goes in, gets his barrel onto Nadius, but it was Zaitan it actually ended up taking out. And from there, the rest of the follow-up damage from the Wolves just so strong right now. They can sidestep outside of the Ziggs ult. Not really anything else to do. Wicked wasn't even really in this fight, and then comes in and just swings his hammer about a bit. And he's like, yeah, I'm helping, guys. I've got this.
I mean, that's how it works. The hammer does all the work. Poppy just carries the hammer.
Who got it this
verdict. We're going to have to research afterwards. Dan takes a bit of damage. He's already got the Sterix. Damn. Not going to take a lot of damage at all. Ku has his ultimate in a couple seconds. If this fight continues to go, he will be able to use it, but I think they're going to rotate towards that mid lane. Also in that last team fight, because of Fate's Call ate up Zaitan, they both got knocked in with the Ku ultimate. That's one of the unfortunate things with like Tam Kent, for example. While it will save you, sometimes it kills you.
Wave clear in action.
Big ultimate onto 3 people. Nuxalot will get his own knockback, and everyone is CC'd and takes a timeout. Nardis will be knocked away from the fight, but now he's left to kite around while no one can get on top of him. This could be good for Mouse, but the front line just disintegrated over to Pinoy and Wicked. However, Pinoy just fail planted into the wall, so he won't get the follow-up he wants. A 1-0 to Copenhagen Wolves.
Yeah, that could have gone better for the Wolves if they'd have had Pinoy follow it up, but he was fairly low health, so did risk jumping in. Nadius wants to continue going forward, so what looked to be a good setup for Mouse initially got halted fairly quickly by Dan having to void assault all the way back into the back of the Wolves side of the map. He actually had to run all the way down mid lane. Mouse just don't really have the damage to deal with the Wolves, and that stems from picks and bans. Is they pick a fairly low damage composition against like 2 tanks and a bruiser, who also have 2 scaling carries alongside it. So it means that even if Wolves get engaged upon in a okay spot, they can hold their own.
Exactly. The early game was very important for Mouse because they had to basically get ahead, because as soon as you fall behind against a tank composition, it's almost impossible to catch back up again. You're not a Fury, you don't have percent damage, you don't have true damage, and you're a mid-game focused team with Kalista in terms of where your damage output is. So unless they get picks onto Ku, which could be really good for them, otherwise it's very difficult. But he is so tanky. He's actually just not taking damage.
That's 3 people trying to kill him, and he's just there like, okay, I'm just going to run out.
Yep.
It's fine. Not a problem here.
Gragas.
Honestly, I'm not sure what Mouse can do at this point, because they can't team fight against the Wolves, because they seem to straight up lose it 5v5. They also can't split push, because they don't really have that as an option. They can defend a side lane using Ziggs very easily, but Beanstu loses out in the 1v1 to Wicked. Dan can't really afford to go over there, as if he doesn't have tunnels properly placed, he can't really regroup with the team, and Wolves have done a good job of clearing out the tunnels when they've seen them. So honestly, I think kind of running out of options for Mouse save a big mistake from the Wolves.
Maybe Mouse can just stall the game until the end of the universe, and and then by virtue, it would probably a draw. I mean, that's probably like the best case scenario that Mouse are looking for
Ku doesn't
right
want
now.
that to happen.
No, he pops the ultimate and will engage onto Nadius, who gets locked down by Sir Nuxalot. Wicked with a flash, and the E will knock Zaitan towards the team. Dan off to the side, he's just a little too late, and Beansu will have to port back to base. He doesn't have teleport, and he'll have to run up to this fight, but the top tower is already going to die. Sevix is getting bursted in the middle lane. The ultimate is following him after, but it's away from Surin, so it's a little too slow. Mid tower goes down, top tower also also Cascade. The dominoes are falling in this game, and Copenhagen Wolves are setting up to win.
I just really want to go all the way back to picks and bans.
All right.
6 mid lane bans. And they pick a reactive mid laner. I'm kind of confused at why this game played out the way it did in picks and bans, because the Wolves just kind of outdrafted MOUs, in my estimation anyway. I mean, MOUs don't pick a carry jungler, they pick a tank top laner, they pick a farming and wave clear mid laner with almost no aggressive pressure, and then a bottom lane that, you know, generally should be okay, but can't deal with tanks later game. Really weird draft from MOU's side of things.
Yeah, first pick Kalista, by the way.
Yeah. I don't think there's a problem with the first pick Kalista.
Oh, no, but then you have to draft other things that give you more damage.
That's fair. Like, I mean, had they gone with the likes of a Kog'Maw,
yeah.
it's not the best. It's not the best composition in the world, but Ziggs also provides an essence of zoning because of the way the minefield works. Plus the W, you can knock people back. It's very minor peel that comes from Ziggs, but at least it would be there as an option.
Yeah, I mean, you draft the Kalista, you go Ziggs, you put the Kog'Maw in the jungle, and go Devourer. OP.
And Victor was available as well. You ban so many mid laners and then don't pick the mid laner that is like the remaining one.
Yeah, I don't know if they just really wanted Ziggs in this game. I don't know if that was just the game plan.
If that is your game plan, I think there are problems right now. If you really want Ziggs, who is not a top tier jungler right now, there are issues.
Potential pick onto Wicked. Nope, he's the tank, and he's just not going to die. Dan will have to jump away here. The ultimate coming in from Sebex.
Does nothing.
Will just literally do nothing to the front line, the tank line. The shield is actually just more than the ultimate from Sebex, and MOUs are just getting beaten to death by these big, beefy tanks. That's just depressing.
That is just depressing. The clean ace. Wolves are heading for the Baron. That is going to be the death knell, as... honestly, now that they've got the Baron buff, that stops a lot of what Ziggs wants to offer with his wave clear. Obviously, the resistance to magic damage on the melees makes it real tough for him actually to do anything. To be honest, I would have quite liked Sir Nukes a lot to have got a banner and then laugh at a Malphite and a Ziggs trying to clear that minion.
Yep, that's actually a good point.
It went into Aegis, which I think is fine, just for extra shield and tankiness, but... this was the catch, or the attempted catch, onto Dan. Soren and Ku, little too late on that situation. A sneak preview of what was going to attempt to arrive in the form of Malphite, but it ultimately wouldn't have been enough. So Wicked is able to weather the storm 3 people's worth of damage here. Ult onto 3 people deals about 200-300 damage at this point, and we're late into the game. Not a death cap yet on Ziggs, but still did have Ludens, but just not enough to get through the resistances on the side of MOUs, and then it's just clean cut. It's just an easy fight for the Wolves to take from there.
I mean, even when people in like the epicenter of Ziggs ultimate and he has like triple item or almost triple item, like usually that does a fair amount of damage. But when you're against a triple tank setup, which was being drafted in Champions like fairly obviously after the first pick of Kalista, you just need something. You need percent damage, you need something that can build like a Blade of the Rune King, anything. But you're just seeing in this game, like you just have all these tanks just punching MOUs to death, and there's nothing they can do about it because they just don't have any damage.
There really is, and it's made it even worse now by the fact that... so Pinoy has had a Maw of Malmortius for a while, so it means if he ever does start getting low, he gets the extra attack speed, you know, the lifesteal, spell vamp. Now he looks to be going Steric's Gauge on top of it, so good luck bursting Pinoy down in these fights, because if you get him... if you get that Serix to pop, he's going to hit you hard, and he's just going to completely steal back all of that health.
Yeah, as soon as that Maw goes down as well, actually pretty disgusting. Biansu, he doesn't even look like a tank. He pops the ultimate onto 3 players. There's the wombo combo, but everyone should be dead from Copenhagen Wolves after that, but they just don't have anything in their arsenal to make this happen, and now Sebex will be chased down. Pinoy's just in the base, and the E has already gone up, but Wicked is looking to take him out with the Keeper's Verdict. And that was another clean ace. Copenhagen Wolves, this should be the game.
That's like the fairground ride, you know, where you gotta ring the bell. Not only did the bell ring, and flew off the gauge there as Wolves bring the hammer down on MOUs. And we'll take game 1 here.
Well, that was certainly a new record. Copenhagen Wolves onto the second Nexus turret, and that was absolute destruction. Copenhagen Wolves taking the game over Mousesports.
That was a champion select issue that just got blown apart from Mouse.
Yeah.
I mean, the Wolves looked at that and were like, okay, well, we just don't get behind, and then we basically win this game. And then they managed to take a lot of advantages down from... They were even in the 2v2, but it was top lane. They started snowballing Wicked. Mouse tried to snowball their 2v2 and couldn't. Yeah. And it was just that influence in the early game really set this game up.
It was one composition. Two, I don't know if like Copenhagen Wolves played that like optimally, but they just like they played out the game well, right? Like they played a very bloody early game, right? Where you're dying a lot, you're killing your opponents a lot, you're taking a lot of objectives. All these trades are going back and forth, but you are ultimately staying ahead of your opponents. So you're not falling behind, and you can play out your composition. Versus like we know our composition is better than yours when we get into this certain stage of the game, and we will stall. Either way, a win is a win, and Copenhagen Wolves did very well in that one. So either way, we need to take a quick break while the team set up for game 2, and I need to take a quick break while I can learn the English language. So don't go anywhere, we'll be back right after this.